Hello, and thank you for joining us on the What Do New Teachers Need to Know podcast from the Art of Education University. My name is Tim Bogatz, and together with Janet Taylor, we have put together a series of 8 episodes directed at new teachers that share some of our best advice on a variety of topics. Some of the discussions you will hear over the course of these episodes originally appeared on the Art Ed Radio podcast, and some are new to this podcast. Sometimes we'll be answering listener questions, sometimes we'll be giving advice, and sometimes we will simply be having a discussion that shares some of our favorite strategies and advice. No matter the case, we hope that listening will be helpful for you. Today, we're going to focus on professionalism and everything that it takes to be a professional art teacher. Now, if you haven't heard any of these new teacher episodes before, we have a handful on other topics, on curriculum, classroom management, just all the things that new teachers are most concerned about, all the things that they need to know. Now, AOEU has also published a first-year teacher guide on the magazine side of things, as well as a few episodes of the first-year teacher series on YouTube. So those are more resources for you to check out. And, as I said last time we did one of these podcasts, I'm really excited that new teachers and beginning teachers are listening to podcasts. They're thinking about how they can develop as professionals. They're considering how they can get better at what they do. And hopefully this discussion that we have today can help. So at the end of the podcast episode last week, I asked for questions about professionalism and what it means to be a professional. And again, teachers came through with some really good ones. So Janet and I will do our best to answer those today. And as always, if you know any first year or any new art teachers or even pre-service teachers who are thinking about a lot of these topics that we cover, please send them our way. AOEU has pro packs, flex resources, podcasts, articles, YouTube series that I just mentioned, and so much more that can really help. But Janet is here. She is ready to talk about professionalism as we open up the mailbag. So let's go ahead and get to it. Janet Taylor, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hi, Tim. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am very, very much looking forward to this conversation. It's been a while since we've done a new teacher episode, but we're back with, I think, a really good topic on professionalism. The mailbox was overflowing with questions. So sorry to everyone
Awesome.
if we didn't get to yours, but I think we have some really good ones. This is something that's on a lot of people's minds. So let's kind of set the stage for this whole episode. Over the past couple of years, you've been supervising a bunch of student teachers, and you're now back in the classroom and also doing a bunch of, I can't keep track of everything that you're doing. But
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you just, what have you been seeing in your time supervising? And now that you're back in the classroom, what are you seeing from new teachers?
So are you asking more generally, or are you thinking more along the lines of the professionalism?
Can we do both?
Sure, we can do both. I love to talk. Okay. So let's see. So this has been an interesting year for me. Like you said, I'm back in the classroom, and I'm also still observing student teachers in the classroom. So that's been really interesting to kind of share with them the same things that are going on with me that they're experiencing too, right? So they will talk about, oh, this happened today. And I'm like, yeah, that happened to me too. And, being able to share in that camaraderie is kind of fun. I think, I don't know, it's kind of interesting, but, I would say that funny enough, the same stuff that we're seeing from student teachers now are the same things that we were seeing last year and the same things we saw 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Some of the same, the reason why we talk about the new teacher podcast episodes are because this is stuff that keeps reoccurring, right? It's
Yeah,
like
stuff
year
that
after
everybody
year.
has gone through. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It doesn't really change that much. I mean, truly, how we address it or what, the direction of maybe managing some of the situations are a little bit different because we know better, we do better, right? We're learning ways to deal with our work-life balance. I think that's been a real thing that I've addressed with student teachers. Just to go back, right? Like student teaching is hard. You're spending a semester. You're not getting paid. You're not working, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like fully fledged into this. You barely know what you're doing. You're, on top of it, my students have like other homework that they have to do for me, which,
Right.
it's a lot.
Well,
So
and I remember trying to work a job while I was doing it, like in the evenings after student teaching, and just this like constant state of exhaustion the entire time.
yes. And it's like, that there's the light at the end of the tunnel, but at the same time, that tunnel feels really long, and then you're probably going, is this what I signed up for? Like next year, I'm going to be doing this completely by myself. Like, that's why we've got you, right? Like we got your back.
Exactly.
So
let's talk professionalism though. Like what are you seeing? What are people thinking? Like what do people need to know?
Yeah, well, when we talk about professionalism, I think there's a lot of different ways to look at that, right? So, just on a side note, here at AOU, we talk about professionalism in the idea of your professional practice, like being reflective, contributing to your school culture, that kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're also including things like professional learning and arts advocacy. Those are big pieces of being an art teacher, a professional art teacher, right? And then, of course, like Danielson framework for teaching, which I think a lot of schools have adopted that model. They look at professional responsibilities. And again, that's the same thing, like reflecting on your teaching, but it also talks about like maintaining accurate records, which we talked about in the organization, I think, right? We talked about that in that episode. Or communicating with families, that's a big one, right? How do you do that? And as well as professional development in the community, right? Like within your school community or outside of your school, that kind of stuff. And then also like this piece is really interesting about that framework is it talks about integrity and ethical conduct. I find that really interesting, and service to students and that kind of idea. Like, what does that actually look like to professionally work with, kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think what, you and I are really interested probably on talking about now is more on the idea of what does it look like to be a professional art teacher back in the classroom quote unquote post pandemic. Yeah. What does it look like getting back to the new normal again? What does that actually look like in the responsibilities area? Is that
just as you meant, like, what, like to you, what does it mean to participate in the school culture or work within a department or work within a school? Like, what are the things that people should be concentrating on that are going to help make them successful professionally?
Yeah. And I think, that's kind of different than it used to be, right? It looks different in general. And then also, like, if you had never experienced what it's like to be in a school community, as a new teacher, it's a new experience altogether. We all think we know what it's like to be in a school because we were all in schools forever.
Right.
But actually, like, working in the school community and what that all means, there's a lot more. And I think that really is very overwhelming, especially for art teachers, new art teachers, because there's so many more things like field trips that we take them on, or art show displays around school or elsewhere, competitions, and then like partnerships that, we talk about with other school events. Like I always think about Lindsay Moss talking about her drive-through, with the community
show,
and like, no, it doesn't need to be like crazy like that. She's amazing. Right. But
she's an overachiever. That's
yes. But that's part of it that I think we oftentimes don't even think about when we're student teachers or new teachers. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and I would just add too, on top of all of that, all of those big things, all of those outside the school day things, it's just so difficult to do so much on a day-to-day basis, just all of the logistics with supplies and with grading and with getting out these materials and making sure these are put away and cutting paper and making sure the floor is mopped and the brushes are washed. It just goes on and on and on. And so there's just a lot to prepare for and a lot that needs to be done if you are in the art room.
And working with other people to do that. Right.
Yes.
I mean, that's a huge piece is like, how do you collaborate with your other art teachers or other people in your building to make those things happen? Right. Yeah,
exactly.
for sure.
Yeah. There's so much. And I'll just say like, teachers who are just starting, like find a way for your kids to help organize supplies and wash brushes and clean the floor. Like that's not something you have to be doing by yourself.
100%.
So just a quick word of advice. All right. Let's open up the mailbag though. This first question, this was actually asked in various forms by a lot of different people from a lot of different places. They're worried about how we dress. All right. So, basic gist of most of these questions, goes something like this. Okay. When I started teaching, I was really nervous about dressing and how to look professional while still being able to do my work in the art room. It's tough as an art teacher. And so how should a new teacher dress for school days, for in-services, and how do they find out where the lines are on acceptable dress for their particular school? Can I take this one first? Is that all right?
Go for it. Yes,
right.
please.
So I would just say, when I first started teaching, I was dressing very professionally. I had, nice pants, shirt, tie, like full 9-yard, like super professional. When I was teaching elementary, there were just not a lot of male teachers around. And so I wanted to kind of set a good example or be a good example for those kids. And then, when I moved to the high school, the art department that I took over had just not the best reputation. And so I wanted things to look a little more professional, be a little more professional. Like, hey, this is a serious subject. Like we're going to do some big things here. And so it was important to me to dress really nicely. And, for me, the colored Sharpies were important. I bought the 36 pack, and that way I could match my tie to the Sharpie that was in my shirt pocket every single day.
Oh my gosh.
And so I looked professional, but I was also very artistic at the same time.
With the colored Sharpie that made you artistic. I like that.
That matched the tie. Like, it's just part of the whole ensemble. I did that for quite a few years. And that was great. And my clothes all had paint on them, and that's fine. Like, it was just part of the deal. Like, my pants are going to have clay and my shirt was going to have paint, and there's not much you can do about it. Just, you need to accept that. But then as I got a little further into my teaching career, started to get burnt out. And I know this sounds pathetic, but there were days where it seemed really, really difficult to button up a shirt and put on a tie. That was really hard for me at one point. And so I just started dressing down and just kept wearing my art club hoodie every single day to school. And that was fine too. And, it kind of made me realize that it's not that important what you want to wear. I would suggest when you're first starting, you want to dress nicely. You want to set a good example. You want people to take you seriously. And so, I would recommend dressing up, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not super important. So I would just say, talk to your administrator, see what expectations are, be willing to follow those expectations. And then, if you eventually decide that you want to dress down or you have to not look so good when you're doing ceramic units, then, that's fine too. You can figure that out later on. But at the beginning, just communicate with your admin and just do what they're asking you to do.
Yeah, kind of on the same lines, so let's see. I would say, first of all, that I hate that wearing what you wear is kind of important. I'll be honest, right? It really bothers me that, quote unquote professional is a student tie. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I don't know if that's you and I are a little bit older, little older school with that, but my student teachers often will like go to schools and wearing like jeans and a sweatshirt because that's like what their cooperating teacher's wearing, let's say.
Right.
And I'm not saying they're all doing that. I'm just saying, and I'm like, you guys, you cannot do that because you're like representing our university too. And so I always say the best policy is to like not wear jeans, at all, at least when you're a new teacher, like not for quite some time. And kind of the same lines, like dressing up a little bit more. I don't know. What do you want to say? What's that? Business casual, I guess, like a little bit higher than business casual.
I don't know, but yes.
But basically, okay. So like the school that I taught at, I taught first at a school that was pretty affluent, and it was like, I don't think I wore jeans. I wore like trousers and a nice shirt or something like that. And then I went to Chicago Public Schools, and I'll tell you, it's so different, like the vibes that you get at each school. So like at that school, everybody called each other Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, like in the hallway. I didn't even know people's first names.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was very formal, very formal.
Right.
Yeah.
That's weird to me, but
yes. And everybody was like in student ties, like everybody was in just very proper dress. So it was really important. And then I went back out to the suburbs, and it was like, people don't even look at you or say hi. And they're like, in jeans and sweatshirts,
Right.
So it's really interesting from school to school, the dynamic that you're in. Right. But, I always say, like, don't wear jeans. And I know what really stinks too is, like you said, when you get paint all over you, and you're spending money on nicer clothes. And then I always would get like developer on me, and it would like ruin my clothes,
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of killer that way, I guess. But, I don't know. It stinks, but I would say that's kind of the best policy, is to start off that way. I do think, like you said, though, when it starts to get tough or whatever, the good thing is to try to invest in maybe your school's attire. Like if you have a shirt from your school, you can, it feels like you can wear that with anything. You know what I mean? And it's a little bit more dressed down. But, I will tell you also that I just recently at my new school, was wearing like really nice. That's the other thing that I say about like the new dress now. Like I was wearing really nice jeans. They're like fancy jeans, with like a very nice top and a sport coat type of, like jacket for like open house. And I kind of got looked down upon. Like, you shouldn't be wearing that. And I was like, really? I went to my department chair. I'm like, am I okay? And he's like, your shoes are really nice, so you're good, And I was like, oh my gosh, I thought I was like looking pretty snappy. You know what I mean? And I'm not someone to like push the limits on that. But anyway, I would always say err on the side of asking admin if you need it. Yeah.
Okay. Two things to wrap up this question. We're on the path for another really long
my
episode,
gosh. Okay.
So I don't mind.
Sorry.
That's how we always do it. Number one, find yourself a good apron that'll protect your clothes.
Yes.
And, you're the art teacher, so people don't mind if you wear an apron. And number two, if you're listening to Janet and I say, don't wear jeans, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, they're so old and so out of touch. Guess what? Your administrators are even older and even more out of touch. And so just communicate with them about what their expectations are.
Thanks for that, Tim. I appreciate that too.
Well, calling you old?
Not calling me as old as administrator. So I feel better about that. We're good. Okay.
All right. Okay. Next question from the mailbag. This is from Ellie in Sacramento, California. She says, I have a lot of tattoos, one full sleeve and one partial. My principal is chill about it, and she says it's fine if the kids see them, but I'm worried about the parents. Would you try and cover them up or otherwise try to hide the tattoos just so you don't have to deal with parents' complaints? Janet, thoughts on that one?
Oh my gosh. This is like the dress thing too, because it's like, gosh, tattoos are so cool. I've always wanted a full sleeve. I just cannot commit on the artwork,
Right.
I'm too picky, but like I've always wanted sleeves. So I don't know. I guess I'm kind of like, if the admin is okay with it, then they have the finger on the pulse and they'll back you up, right?
Yep.
Like they know what the parents are going to say or do, right? And you're in Sacramento, first of all. I mean, isn't that like kind of cool? Okay. So, you've got kids who are seeing your tattoos and know that they're there. Well, then so do the parents. right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
parents, I don't know. I would say, if you were at a more conservative school setting, right, where maybe that is an issue, I would say do what makes you most comfortable. So, like, let's say you're doing parent teacher conferences and you're going to be so focused on your tattoos, then wear long sleeves.
Yep.
Like, so what? Show them, don't show them, but like, do what makes you most comfortable in those situations if you don't want to tackle it in that moment. That's kind of what I would say.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Again, I would echo the point to just talk to your admin, get guidance from them. That's their job. Like you said, they have a pulse on what the school community, is and isn't up for. So I think that's fine. I think it does bring up a bigger issue about, what parents, think, what parents do, what they worry about, what they're going to act on. And I would just say you can't spend too much time worrying about that because it's going to be an added stressor that you probably don't need. It's going to likely distract you from what you're trying to do. And so, I would say just try not to worry about all of that because it is going to distract from your teaching. It's going to be difficult for you. So, yeah, don't spend too much time fretting about what parents might say or might worry about. Like you said, Janet, if it is going to be a distraction at conferences, cover them up. But at the same time, like your kids see them, your kids know. And if it hasn't been an issue yet, I doubt it's going to be. So, but just, look for guidance from other teachers or from your administrator.
That's a really good question, though, just in general for like new teachers, right? Like starting out thinking, oh my gosh, I have this permanent artwork that is very visible. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is, and if you're stepping into a new school, that can be very intimidating. I get that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, next question. This is from Jarvis in Detroit, Michigan. And Jarvis says, my biggest worry is communication with parents. I want to make sure I'm professional with my phone calls, emails, and all the ways I'm communicating with them. I'm kind of scared to send a lot of emails because there's a written record of everything I say, but obviously that's easiest and most people's best way to get in touch with them. Should I worry about this? And how do I make sure I stay professional in all of my communications? All right. Again, don't spend all your time worrying. Like just send the emails. Like teachers, I think in general should send more emails. And I'm sorry, everybody who's going to throw things at me for that. As far as we don't have time to do this. I think communication is key, and don't worry, like I said, about things out of your control. Don't worry about people picking apart what you wrote. Just like share what you need to share. Like it's always good. Parents always appreciate hearing like when their kids did well, a quick email, quick phone call is always good about that. That's something that really takes a lot of time, but just, an email newsletter is a great idea where, every once in a while, maybe every month, every couple of weeks, you just talk about, what's happening in your classroom, just send it out to everybody. So, parents know what's happening in your classroom. They will appreciate that. And if you can't commit to like bi-weekly, then just do it occasionally and just kind of let them know what's happening. And then, if there are some bigger issues that you maybe don't want to deal with via email, just use email to set up a phone call or set up an in-person meeting. And then you can talk, over the phone or talk even face-to-face about anything that's kind of a bigger issue. So I would say go ahead and send the emails. Don't worry too much about it because it is the best form of communication. And 99% of the time, like, parents are going to be excited to hear about what's happening in their classroom or hear about what their kid is doing. So, Janet, what are your thoughts on email professionalism? What we should and shouldn't worry about there?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything that you said is solid. As a parent myself, I love to hear from teachers. I think that if you're worried about what it is that you're going to say that's going to be maybe misconstrued, or maybe you have some sensitive material in there, maybe think twice about sending that email, right? You can ask someone else to look it over for you ahead of time, before you hit the send button, and make sure that maybe your wording is what you want it to be. Or if the content is something that you're nervous about, then probably pick up the phone, right? I think that's a good standard too. Like, hey, to parents, I really need to have a conversation. Can we meet during this time? Whatever. I'd like to discuss this, I always think that's really important, especially when dealing with touchy topics, right? Something like kids misbehaving or kids failing a class because they haven't turned in work or whatever it is, right? Sometimes those can be very trying on parents who maybe see that across the board, right? So like,
Can I interrupt you too?
Yeah.
Sorry. Just one thing I thought of, like anything that has some urgency to it, needs to be a phone call. You talk about behaviors, things you don't want to continue. Like, let's say you send an email and that parent doesn't check the email for 3 days or 7 days or 10 days, like which happens.
It goes in their spam folder or,
exactly. Yeah. That's definitely a possibility. So if there is anything that needs attention right away, make it a phone call. So anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I thought that was an important point.
No worries. What was I going to say? Oh, so about the behaviors or whatever. Like, I think that sometimes, we all have been prey to this, right? Where we might send an email or send a text real quick or something like that to even our partners or friends or whatever, and it's misconstrued, right? Like, what do you mean by that? And things escalate very quickly when they're misconstrued, right? Or misunderstood. And so I think it's really important that if you have subjects that might already be of concern to the parent, heated topic, whatever, to have that conversation in person or, on the phone, because 100% of the time I'm able to my success rate has been high, to diffuse or de-escalate a conversation with a parent when I can sit there and listen to what they have to say. Yes. I can hear their tone of voice. They oftentimes want to feel just like every human being, right? Their kid is important to them. They want to make sure that, they're being heard because they are the expert with their kid. And what they see at home isn't always the same as what you're seeing at school and vice versa. And so it really, if you can take it from the direction of like, this is a partnership, I'm looking to you to help me out. That's the other thing in emails. I will say this, because I feel like we could talk about a whole episode just on communication, right? But it's like, you don't want to send an email where it's like, I'm tattling on your kid to you.
Right.
It should be, I'm looking for solutions. We're trying to do this together. What have you seen at home? How can I help your kid? I'm struggling with this. What do you think of that? It should always end up with a question at the end to invite them to participate in this conversation. Not like, hey, your kid was misbehaving today. Okay, well, what do you want me to do about it? I'm not in class with them. Right? And I'm not saying that that's necessarily the communication that this person is asking about, but I feel like that's when the email gets a little bit bogged down. It's like, you don't want to send a novel. Like, that's not good. And if you're concerned about, usually in your administration, right, or in your school, you have a good idea of which parents you need to be tracking emails on. It's usually, you have a pretty good idea. And so when in doubt, like, ask a counselor, right? Because they know the kid. I oftentimes will shoot an email over to the counselor, be like, hey, before I send this email home, like, can you give me some insight on the kid? And then they'll be like, oh yeah, parents are really receptive, or no, parents don't speak English. Okay, that's good to know too, right? Right. So yeah, I'm all about the email.
Quick trip down the counselor's office, pop your head in and ask. And it's a good way to collaborate and, like you said, sometimes get some key information there. But when in doubt, communicate do it more often than not.
Yes.
Okay, next question from the mailbag. Alexis, who says she's from Northeast Ohio. A lot of my colleagues have social media accounts for their teaching or their classroom. They like Facebook because that's where the parents are, but I'm not 80 and I'm not starting an account just for that. LOL. Shots fired, Alexis. Wow. Okay.
As we opened by talking about how old we are. Okay.
Right,
okay.
Right. Would you recommend an account on Insta? That's Instagram for those of you who are 80, or Snapchat or TikTok. I feel like it's good for establishing myself as a professional, but there are obviously downsides with oversharing, people misinterpreting stuff, or not liking what you're posting. Not sure what I should do here, or even if I should do it. Okay, so first of all, I can't get over, like, I'm not 80, like I'm dying at that. But I think that's good for people to hear, maybe. Like I feel like a lot of teachers who are well into their career do a lot on Facebook as far as like art teacher groups and sharing with parents. And like it's good for them to hear that like the 23-year-olds who are just coming into teaching have no desire whatsoever to be on Facebook. So like there's another world outside of there.
I will say though, like on top of it, it's also who is your demographic that you're trying to share that to, right? Like maybe if you are sharing to the parents and you really want them, maybe that the Facebook is the, the way to go. I don't know. I'm not saying it is, but. Okay.
No, I think it's important to realize your audience, but I would say honestly, like, don't do it, especially not at the beginning. I think, you have enough things to worry about that you don't need to also be worried about posting content and like sharing everything that's happening. I don't think that needs to be a priority right away. Mm-hmm. If you really want to do it, go for it. But if you have any doubts, I would say just wait. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with like a long runway on the social. Like you don't have to be posting all the time. You can create an Instagram account just for your teaching and use it to learn, to observe, to ask questions, to be part of conversations. You don't have to share. And then, but if you decide that you do want to share, you want to show off what's happening in your classroom, just, follow best practices, like just focus on the art, keep the kids' faces like out of all of it, and just make sure you're focused on, what's happening with your teaching or what's happening with the projects. But, keep it professional as much as you can. But I would say if you don't have to do it, I would not make it a priority.
So I have some feelings on social media, but before that, I want to go back to your comment about like keeping the kids' faces out of it. So this is really interesting, especially nowadays. Very important to be aware of your district's policies.
Yeah.
I would say I've never been at a school where this hasn't been the case, but there are students whose parents like don't want them for many reasons, many different reasons, to be seen on social media, right? It could be a severe safety situation for the kid. And so I recently at this new school, I was like, so what's your policy on this? And they were like, well, you can go in and look and see which kids opted. I'm like, nobody's got time for that. I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to like not put faces ever, I just put hands and them working on stuff or their finished work or whatever. And if a face is in it, I have to like block it out, by putting a shape over it or something and blur it or whatever. But that's like so important. You can get fired for that 100%. Like I have witnessed that happen. So I hate to be like that person. But, every school is different.
Have to think about. It's something that you have to worry about.
So important right now. Also, what else is very important right now is knowing that whatever you're putting out there can be seen by anybody. It can be saved by anybody and shared by anybody. Right. And so I think that's really important. And again, like not to be like Debbie Doomsday over here, but like it's really important right now, especially I would say. So that being said, that's what I always talk to my student teachers about. But I will say this is my mixed feelings on social media. Okay, you ready for my diatribe on this?
Yes, go.
So I was feeling pretty snarky about people putting, you're going to get hate mail, I think, for this. But I used to get pretty snarky about people putting out their own Instagram account and saying like, look at what my kids are doing. This is what they're doing. And it was like, I felt like it was kind of about them and not about their students. Right.
Yeah. And
so it felt really inauthentic to me to be like, look at all these amazing things my kids are doing. Right. So, okay. So I'm putting that out there. Just bear with me. Here we go. So then in my old district, I had started our Instagram and Twitter account. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made it for the district, or for our department, I mean. And I ran it because nobody else felt like they had time to run it. I get it. So it had my email address on it for school, and it was tied to our account that way, which was nice because then anything we put out, it was like, look at what our students are doing. Our
Right.
students at our department, they're amazing. Our kids, right? It wasn't like about me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then I left that district, right? And then like they had a real hard time figuring out how to transfer that over from accounts. So in the meantime, and my own Instagram account, I have like my own artwork and everything. And then I would have like my kids, and then I would have like some of my teaching stuff, like kind of like a little combo of things.
Right.
And I went to this workshop where they were like, yeah, you really should, if you want your artwork to be seen for like by like a gallery or things like that, right, to be chosen, you really should keep your Instagram clean to just your artwork. Okay, so then I was like, well, shoot, I already have a following on my artwork, on that one. And so then I made a separate one. And this is because I was also like working with student teachers. I'm not in the classroom at the moment. This was last year. I made my own separate teaching account. And it's like crazy how like elementary art teachers are like huge. And so I could see why you'd want to like, you'd feel that pressure to make something like that, There's like 50,000 people following these elementary art teachers. And I'm like, I think I'm, pretty solid. And I've got like 100 people following me. And so I'm like, well, gee, like how'd that happen? But in like high school, it's a different dynamic. I think you're not going to get like 50,000 people following. So anyway, that's my diatribe about it. But I guess I'm just saying like, you do you, and if you want to do it through your school, do it through your school. If you want to do it for yourself, do it for yourself. If you want to build it over time, do it. But like, do not like compare yourself to other people. I think we've talked about that, right? Is like the comparison is the thief of joy. Isn't that how it goes? Yeah.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes. And when you're like a new teacher, just trying to like love your job and
trying
do
to
it,
survive,
exactly. Yeah. Like that is one less thing that you really have to do. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. That was long.
No, it's all important stuff. And for those of you that are angry, Janet for
I'll
talking
give you
about
Janet Taylor at theartofelducation.edu.
Oh, I was going to tell them to email me and I can forward it. But
okay. I'm just joking. I was like trying to help you out there, Tim. Okay.
Okay. All right. Next question. This is from CJ in Las Vegas. CJ says, I just started my first year as a high school teacher, and I'm in an art department with 4 other teachers. They aren't exactly open to new ideas, if you know what I mean, and they don't even want to collaborate with me. What do you think are best practices for working on a team, and how do you deal with a team that maybe doesn't want to work with you? Janet, I have never been on a big team, so I'm going to send this to you.
Okay, so I think we did tackle a little bit of this in a previous podcast for new teachers. And maybe it was about curriculum or something like that, like not reinventing and like trying to work with others and et cetera. So I will tell you from the perspective, especially now with so many changes and like new teachers and whatever, this kind of goes both ways for veteran teachers and for new teachers. It's like, okay, so from the lens of a veteran teacher, you might be one of like 2 left in the department and everybody else is new and you're stuck having to like, I don't know, what do you want to say? Like mentor all these new people. Right. You're already burnt out from the pandemic. Like just all these things are happening and you're like, I cannot deal with this, And so sometimes veteran teachers right now might be like, I am washing my hands of this because I just can't do it right now. And that's okay, right? So I try to take it on the perspective and look at the whole picture. But if you're a new teacher coming in too, and you realize that people are not collaborating with you, I always like to put on my like kill them with kindness face,
Right.
and always smile and like asking questions like, hey, I'm so sorry to bother you, but can you help me with this? Or like,
Yeah.
hey, I made a Google Doc with all these questions I have. Can we meet one day and like go over it instead of me bothering you? Because as a veteran teacher, it is very annoying. I will tell you, right? You know this, Tim, I'm sure, but
Mm-hmm.
you're like in the middle of prepping your class and it's like the very little time that you get to yourself to take care of things. And then like you have a new teacher popping in every 5 seconds. And some of it is because they, no offense, new teachers, but you don't know what you don't know. We've said that before, right? And so like you might be last minute, oh, I have this idea. I'm going to do this, or, oh, I forgot to do this and I need tape and I don't know where the tape is or whatever. And I've definitely done this at my new school. I'm like, hey, I can't find this material. And so like, then as a veteran teacher, we're like, like it's not my responsibility to help you when you haven't thought through the situation. It's like, well, they also don't know what they don't know. So anyway, my point is it kind of goes both ways, right? Is like looking from both sides of the lens. But my biggest tips are to ask questions, have a smile on your face, be ready to support and help, offer help. And if you're offering help, don't just like, okay, thanks, and like walk away. Like that means you have to stick around and be like, what can I help you with? What needs my help? I do feel like sometimes you have to gain people's trust, right? And respect, because you're like this new person coming in and they don't know you, But I will say that if you are working with people who are not willing to collaborate, not interested in sharing materials with you, then I'm sorry, at some point you have to just keep on going and do your thing. So like, let's say you walk into a school and they're like, no, you can, I'm not going to give you my curriculum and you're teaching the same class. Like, well, then make your curriculum, I guess, and if you need support and you're not getting it from the teachers, then you should go to your department chair. I think that's a great place to start too. And like, I also like when I step into new schools, I like to talk to the department chair and kind of be like, okay, can you give me a little bit of the skinny of the department? Like where are the strengths? How do people work together? Who should I ask, for things? Who, and usually I get like some information about the people like, so-and-so is like really strapped thin. That's not the right stretch thin is, and so maybe don't go to them right now or whatever. And it's like, that's really helpful information. So it's kind of just like being an observer and being responsive to that. Does that make sense? I don't know.
No, it definitely does. And, I think it's important to realize, like you said, you can't force it. Like if they are not interested in working with you, like, give it some time. It may not happen right away, but hopefully it'll happen eventually. But even if it doesn't, just do what you can do. Like advocate for yourself, advocate for your kids, show off your work. Like you said, continue to offer to help and just, be open, be amenable to whatever you can do to kind of be part of the team and do what you can to make it work. But you might just need to accept that it's not going to happen, at least right away. So,
yeah. And I guess at those points too, like if it feels like, okay, I've spent a year and nobody's working with me and this is a toxic environment, then maybe you need to get out and find a different space, I don't know.
Definitely a possibility. And, I would just add one other thing. I guess there's a lot of support that maybe doesn't come from the people that you work directly with, like this podcast here. Or, there's so many online resources. There's so many art teachers online. There's so many sources of support and help and learning out there that it doesn't necessarily have to come from the people that you see every day.
Yeah.
So, all right. Final question from the mailbag. This is from Steph in New Jersey. Steph says, this may sound ridiculous, but I'm honestly not sure how I'm supposed to act at staff meetings. I like this question. All right. For context, I was hired during the pandemic, taught my first year remote, and even last school year, we rarely met as a staff. So, like, what do I do when I'm in a big group of my colleagues? Do I have to pay attention all the time? Is it okay if I doodle while people are talking? Should I ask questions or speak up when they ask for comments? I really don't know how any of this works. It's like 8 questions in one. So, Janet, take whichever of those you would like.
Yeah, long are the days where long gone are the days when you could like turn off your screen
Right.
during PD meetings and be like, yeah, I'm here.
I'm listening.
Okay,
I promise.
Sure. No, they see everything you're doing. Okay, so I always bring a sketchbook or pad of paper with me to take notes, always. And I do like to try. Now, I'm not good at this. We talked about this during organization. I'm not the most organized when it comes to paperwork and stuff, but I do suggest having like one notebook or something that you want to keep all of the stuff that's department school related notes, because you're going to need those to refer back to at some point. I promise you that there will be something that comes up and you're like, ooh, they said that in a meeting and I do not remember what that was, you know? So I usually have like a sketchbook or something that is dedicated to that. Teachers are the worst with professional development.
So true.
Like, let's be real. And sometimes it's warranted, you know, because like the stuff doesn't relate to us, or we're kind of the last ditch effort over there. But so if the PD isn't relevant to you, or it's really challenging to engage with, I say that doodling is like really great. Like, go ahead and doodle, draw, whatever, because like actually, and I always tell my students this, they love this. And I feel like I need this to back it up, but there's scientific evidence. And I say that and I should look it up, but there's scientific evidence that shows that when you doodle, like it makes you more present and able to engage with what you're listening to. I think it helps you, ground you, but also like takes some of the sensory options out, if that makes sense. So your ears have to focus a little bit harder on the listening part. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I would always be like, no, I'm doodling, but I'm listening. And oftentimes I do have more thoughtful questions to ask then, because I'm more attentive to it. I also like to jot little reflections down or thoughts that I might have for later. And I say that always ask those questions. If they're like, hey, does anybody have comments? Okay. If it's like, 3:00 is when the end of the day is, and it's 2:59, and they're like, who's got questions? You might want to hold on to your question.
Do not be that person. Like, that is the worst. Like, the meeting is so obviously over, and then one person just raised their hand. Like, I have a super specific question that only applies to me, but I'd like to keep the entire staff here for another 3 or 4 minutes. Don't be that person. Please.
Yes. Or just in general, that's a good rule of thumb. Anytime. Like, if you have a very specific questions that's about you and your needs, like that needs to be met. Like, get that person's email and go ask them later.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I would just say, also doodle away, like go for it. And honestly, your principal's standing up in the front of the room talking to everybody. They don't know whether you're doodling or taking notes. It just looks like you're attentive. So yeah, have a notebook and pen that's just like specific for PD meetings. Like you said, leave it in your desk drawer in the same place all the time. Take it when you need to take it. As far as, with your colleagues, like I think Steph asked, what do I do when I'm in a big group of my colleagues? I would say just be cordial, be friendly, but you don't have to engage any more than you want to. Like as an introvert, it's really hard for me to like go into a big group of people and be all excited. Like that's hard work, but it's easy to say good morning, or easy to just say, hey, how's everybody doing as you sit down, and that can be it. And so you look friendly enough, but don't need to engage really thoroughly with everybody. So it's up to you. I mean, just kind of be yourself. When you're in a group of colleagues, stay professional, but easy enough to say hi and be friendly. And that is good for you. And then I would just say, like you said, a lot of irrelevant PD is going to be coming your way in your teaching career. But part of being a professional is sometimes doing things that you don't want to do. And, engaging in professional development might just be one of those things. But I would say, like you said, just, act professional, do what you're supposed to be doing, which is paying attention, taking notes, asking questions, and participating in the discussion. And it doesn't need to go much beyond that. So,
I want to add to, if you don't mind me interrupting and adding, but, it drives me nuts when we're in a small group meeting, like maybe there's like 5 or 10 people even. And like other people are like on their email, doing their lesson planning, on their phone. It's really irritating actually as somebody who would like to be doing that too.
Right.
It's like, come on, man. Like we're all in here doing this. Like, can you just put it away for a little bit? I think it's really rude.
It is. It's disrespectful when you're in a small group like that. But yeah, I would say a good rule of thumb is just think about like, what would I want my students to be doing in this situation? And then, I would want them to be paying attention, taking notes, and answering questions I have. Do that and you'll be fine. So yep. I think that's a simple rule of thumb for stuff there. Okay, that is all of our questions. Thank you for all of them. Thank you to everybody who wrote in. They were a lot of fun. Janet, before we go, any final thoughts that you want to share?
Oh my gosh, I always have final thoughts. Okay. All right. So I want to share this. This is my vulnerability for the day. Okay. So I'm new to my school, and I know some of these teachers. Like I've known them because we all kind of run in the same circle. You know how it goes. It's like a slightly incestuous group of art teachers in the area, right? Like everybody knows everybody. You got to be careful not to burn bridges. I mean, that's good advice in general, right? You know, you never know where you're going to be or who's going to know somebody. But anyway, so I'm at this new district, and I will tell you, I have had quite the go of the first maybe month, and I'm on the podcast a lot. I present a lot. I feel pretty confident in what I have to offer. And it's like almost imposter syndrome when you start at a new school. And so I think, like even veteran teachers who are pretty solid, it's really uncomfortable to start again. I was really missing my old school and the fact of like, I had my classroom and I had my students and I had my curriculum that I set up and everything felt really comfortable. And when you're, I tried to have a little mantra of like, I can do hard things, and like how we grow is by going outside our comfort zone and pushing outside that. And that's how we learn and grow. Right. So when you're starting a new career, as a new teacher, or even a veteran teacher at a new school, it's incredibly vulnerable, putting yourself out there, trying to figure out and navigate everything that you're navigating, right? Whether that's what you're supposed to dress on a daily basis, or do I need to cover my tattoos, or how should I communicate with the parents? Because they're different. They're different everywhere. Everybody's different. And so it really does, every day I would come in and I'd be like, okay. And I love teaching here. I love my colleagues and the students. I'm finally, kind of in the groove again. But it was just like every day going, okay, it's a new day. And what do I need to work on today to make sure that I'm feeling solid at my school? And you know what? A big part of it is getting to know my students and my student population and how my building runs. And not everything runs the same. I mean, there's things at my old district that ran like a fine oiled machinery, and I come here and it's just different. I'm like, why are you guys doing it that way? And just trying to do the simple ins and outs of things that you're used to somewhere else is just a wrench in your day when you're already trying to do so much. So I just wanted to put that out there that, it doesn't really change when you're at a new school, whether you have 20 years behind you or 2 years behind you. I think it's just really learning about the team, learning the culture, and giving yourself grace, to say, it's okay that I don't know today because I will know more for tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And as long as you're willing to listen and as long as you're willing to learn, then, with a little bit of patience, like all of that is going to come. Like it's all going to come to you. And so, yeah, like I said, just kind of be willing to be humbled a little bit, you know, and just be willing to learn. And that will take you a long way. So, all right. Well, Janet, thank you so much for this entire conversation. I always love talking to you, and hopefully everybody will enjoy this new installment of our new teacher podcasts.
Thanks so much, Tim.
Thank you to Janet. Now, I hope you found some good takeaways from our conversation. We have some links for you in the show notes about professionalism, some opportunities for you to explore, and some connections to other resources. I hope you can take advantage. Our next episode, episode 6, will be all about what new teachers need to know about evaluations. I hope you can join us again for that episode. Thank you for listening.